If you're a reality TV lover, you might remember Anthony and Claudine from season 13 of My Kitchen Rules, although you'd be lucky to remember them because they were essentially cut out of the show when they were charged with serious offences against children, specifically their daughters. Now, for a while, their names were suppressed, but when the suppression order was lifted, this is how Nine News reported the story.
They were the married battlers on Channel 7 reality show My Kitchen Rules.
If I was served this at an actual restaurant, I'd send it back and tell them to make the scallop crispier on the outside.
Yeah, if she doesn't like something, it always gets sent back.
The fiery Italian and super chill Samoan making the final stages of the cooking saga on television while in court facing bombshell child abuse charges.
I don't mince my words. If it's in here, it's coming out of here.
Silence as Claudine Uwamaki-Mu and Anthony Mu left court. Tonight we can unmask them for the first time. We can now identify you. For almost 2 years we've been unable to reveal their identities as we followed legal proceedings. Today a court order lifting. Queenslanders have been waiting a long time to see your identities. Claudine Uwamaki-Mu originally faced dozens of serious offences including rape and torture. Her husband Anthony also accused of similar crimes. Many of the charges against the couple, including torture, have been dropped. The couple were set to face a joint trial here at Richlands Magistrates Court today. Instead, Uwamaki-Mu entered the shock guilty plea to 6 historic common assault offences. The court hearing that she hit, kicked and spat on a child. On another occasion, a child was grabbed by the hair and thrown into a wall. She escaped convictions and was handed a $1,000 12-month good behaviour bond and will face district court at a later date for 12 other offences, including rape. Anthony Mu will also face court at a magistrate's level at a later date on 11 charges, including common assault. Anna Rawlings, 9 News.
In March, Anthony was found not guilty on all charges. Tonight, Anthony is joining me live with his other daughter, Paige, for his first interview. Anthony and Paige, welcome to McKnight tonight.
Hi, Rob.
Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Thank you for having us.
Good, thank you. Thank you for being here. Anthony, until that point, these serious allegations had been kept away from the public, the point where the suppression orders were lifted. How did you feel when you had to face the cameras outside court that day when the suppression order was lifted?
Yeah, it was quite terrible what we've been going through, but once the what was it called? The suppression was lifted, then everyone could see us, and it was quite traumatizing to go through that. Everyone can see who we were.
Paige, these claims made by your sisters, they were very serious, but you stuck by your parents the whole time. Why? Especially when we're told to believe alleged victims.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, throughout all of this, I gain nothing, whether I support my sisters or support my parents. I'm a person who believes in the truth, and I live my life with utmost integrity. So it was really important for me to stand up for the truth, and that meant to support my parents.
So you believed you knew what the truth was and they were wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I shared a room with the sister making these claims and pioneering these falsified charges. So when we're receiving these documents from the legal team and we're reading through them, it was so traumatic to read such lies about a childhood that never existed.
Anthony, how does it get to the stage where your daughters are making very serious allegations about you and your wife, because everyone's going to think where there's smoke, there's fire?
Well, yeah, they've accused us of some pretty horrific things, which it's just, I don't know, it's hard to.
Yeah,
That's all right. Take your time, and this is why Paige is with you. You are a quiet man, but it's an extraordinary moment, isn't it, when your daughter and your other daughter are making such claims about you?
Yeah, it was, I brought these girls up since they were Paige was, I think you were 4, and the girls were 5, 6, and I took on Claudine's son as well, who was from her late husband to another woman. So I took on 4 kids as a young boy at 24, and, you know, gave them everything I could give them and treated them well and did everything with them, put them through college, fed them, roofed them, housed them and everything. And then they go and do this to me, and it's like, why? Was I that bad of a parent that you have to do what you're doing now? Like, where's it all coming from?
But it seems to snowball, Rob. It started with a DVO as a retaliation to a cease and desist that was suggested to be placed on them before my parents appeared on the show. And this DVO snowballed into the false allegations, and no evidence has been put through to court, and it's gone this far. A DVO was placed on me by one of these sisters, and no evidence was brought into court. I paid $20,000 for my own legal representation, and I am a person of principle. So I saw an opportunity to invest in the truth by hiring good legal support, and I came out without the DVO because, of course, there's no evidence and basis for the claims that were made on all 3 of us. It just happened to be the timing of the show, which I think would have driven the police who are representing my sisters as well, because my parents are being painted as celebrities, but really they're just regular working class people who have worked really hard to raise 6 children.
Brisbane battlers.
There's no doubt the timing was intentional. Just explain one thing you said there, that there was a cease and desist. Talk me through that. Was that you to the sisters? What was that about?
Yeah, correct. There was a cease and desist. So obviously, when you go on a reality TV show, and I find that this is what the public, they forget that there are certain processes. There are police checks, there are psychological evaluations, and there are interviews with network legal teams. They're not just going to let any crazy person on their network. So obviously, Mum and Dad passed all of those interviews and tests. Mum and Dad did disclose that there were some things that were being said about them online by these 2 particular sisters of mine via podcasts. And when I listened to the podcast, they were mountains made out of molehills, I would say. We grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, and it was normal to get a smack on your hand as discipline. It was normal to do.
We've all had the wooden spoon.
Yeah, that's right. Like, I mean, that's a normal childhood, in my opinion, in the 90s and early 2000s. Nothing was out of the scope of what was considered okay in how you discipline your children. So
I'm just trying to get one thing. I'm just trying to get the timeline clear in my head. Did they start going on these podcasts when it was known that your mum and dad were going on My Kitchen Rules, or had they started this before then?
They had started it. They had started a podcast before the show.
But what they were saying on the podcast, again, like I said before, everything snowballed. So what they were saying on the podcast was nowhere near what the charges were saying. So what the podcast was, I would say, defamatory comments that, Mum was emotionally abusive, those kinds of comments.
But sorry, again, did they know you were going on the show at that Anthony and Claudine?
No.
So what was the point of this podcast? Was it just a podcast where people air their grievances or something?
Yeah, I think microphones and podcast gears are a little too cheap these days. So if anyone can get on and say what they want with no basis, no truth. So I just want to preface, as a family, we had been we had been quite separated since 2020, estranged since 2020, since I gave birth to my first daughter. So there was already a breakdown in the family dynamic that was happening.
Right.
The timeline is really important, which I felt that the obviously the media didn't want to report on that. So mum and dad a DVO was placed on mum and dad as a retaliation to the cease and desist that the legal team of Channel 7 Network advised you to seek out a local solicitor and place a cease and desist of stop talking about us, please. And that's all the cease and desist was. There was no conditions, no asking for money, no nothing. It was just stop mentioning things that aren't true. The retaliation was a DVO on both my parents and myself. And I went through the process. I went to the very end, and my sister retracted the DVO. And so I essentially walked out of there free of these lies. However,
And
what
down
was
$20,000.
$20,000, yeah, that's right. I had just had my second baby. I was accused of assaulting her and causing a miscarriage 3 weeks later, and no evidence in court, not even a doctor's note to say that she was pregnant at the time of this alleged incident.
Wow.
So that was all very shocking for me and very, very hurtful. But
just the lies.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's an attack to my character and the work that I do. So moving forward with mum and dad's, you have to supply evidence, obviously, when you're placing a DVO on someone. And because there was simply no evidence, my sisters went and placed 100 historic charges of child rape and torture, common assault, things that fall under that child
domestic
torture.
violence.
Yeah, so mum and dad were actually arrested the night before their Instant Kitchen episode was aired.
I think we were arrested.
Or a night after.
No, we just finished filming.
Right.
And then we got home, and 2 days later we were arrested. I was at work and I was told to come home because the police were there. And I said, what for? And then they wouldn't tell us. Then they took us to the watch house, still didn't tell us. And then once they fingerprinted me and let me go, that's when I found out what charges I was on. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Where did this come from?
It was a shock. It was a shock to us all.
Yeah.
Of course. Anthony, you talked about bringing up the kids. Paige, what was he like as a dad? Coming in as a stepdad that, came in, because your mum had moved on to a different partner.
Well, my father passed of suicide, and our mother found him. He commit suicide in the house, and as you could imagine, a widow from that moment on, a widow with 4 children. To meet a man like Anthony felt like a gift from my father. I often hear horror stories about stepfathers and just step parents, and I really drew the long end of the straw. We were always fed, we were always clothed, we were always loved. We were always in sports. We never went without. My father broke his back providing for a household of 6 children with his one income.
Amazing. Look, It is worth pointing out to everyone watching this what was said when the not guilty verdict was handed down against Anthony, because I found it very time. Now, as reported by the Brisbane Times at the time, in handing down his decision, Magistrate Michael Quinn found that there were several differences in the versions of events that were presented by the complainants and witnesses before the court. Quinn said in parts of the claims, some of the evidence seriously undermined the credibility and reliability of the complainants. I've got to say, Anthony, it doesn't get any clearer than that. But interestingly, Paige, I couldn't find any reporting by Channel 9. I showed you that clip at the top of this interview from Channel 9, the day the suppression order was lifted. I could not find any reporting on this. Now, maybe they did, but I got to tell you, it certainly isn't easy to find online. as their original reporting. Do you think that's fair?
Well, it's a bit fishy to me, Rob, that all of a sudden the Reddit comments have stopped. The very rude and cruel messages via social media have stopped because it doesn't get clicks anymore. But these are our lives that people have been talking about, joking about, making accusations about. I've seen people that I went through school with saying things in Facebook comment sections who hadn't even been to our home growing up, putting their 2 cents in and claiming to know us. So it's been a really hurtful time where we felt like we really came out on top with my win, and then 3 years later with you being acquitted on all charges, and no media coverage.
Yeah,
That was so hurtful.
why do they cover the drama when it's bad, but when it's good and you're let off, no one's reporting saying how great it was that Anthony was released with no charges, no nothing.
That's right.
Like,
Look, I've
That's
worked
not
in the
fair.
media. I know the bad news certainly does rate, but I think on a case like this, I do think it's negligent to not update viewers on what has happened.
Absolutely.
Paige, your mum's case is still before the courts,
That's right.
but
Yes.
she's already been given a 12-month good behaviour bond and $1,000 reconnaissance and no conviction recorded. This was after she pled guilty at court to hitting, kicking and spitting on the children. Now, the remaining charges are very serious, but I understand prosecutors have offered her a deal. What can you tell me about that?
Well,
You may not be able to say anything.
Yeah, I would prefer not to say anything. All I know is we have been in the trenches as a family, sticking together like super glue for the last 3.5 years through these false allegations. And we will be taking this to the very end and fighting no matter what that means for my mum, no matter if a jury finds her guilty or not. We know the truth, and we are so confident in that truth that we will be fighting this until the very end.
Yes.
How do you ever get over it, Anthony? Because you were found not guilty. It didn't get the same media coverage that, you got when your name was publicly available. How do you move on from that? Because do you always feel that people are thinking the worst of you?
Yeah, I think people are looking at me for who I was on the show, and then I think, or are they looking at me for what my girls have done to me and my wife? Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that it's actually my parents' daughters, my sisters doing this. That picture obviously hasn't ever been painted in the media. So, it's...
Yeah, no one realises it's our 2 older daughters doing this,
It is hard, isn't it? And especially when they have presented so many allegations and you get off, so many have been taken away from Claudine, and, that case is still going.
How do you start with 100 and then acquitted of all charges, and then my mother is left fighting 14, I think.
She's in the 20, 22, I think.
22, there we go. I sometimes I wish there was more critical thinking with the Australian public when consuming media to think about these things. But, at the end of the day...
But it's not just the Australian public, Paige. The prosecutors have to take responsibility here. There is obviously, we have to listen to people that are coming forward with their stories. But unless you can corroborate evidence, I don't understand how this progresses so much. How, as you say, how can you go from having 100 charges against you to being found fully acquitted? Anthony totally gets off.
Interestingly enough, Rob, at the beginning when charges were laid on my father, he was arrested based on a charge that my sisters actually placed on him on behalf of me.
How do you do that, Rob?
Just a reminder that I was estranged from these sisters, and one of them had placed a domestic violence order on me. And this was a charge from 2005, I think it was. And I presented into the police station on 2 occasions physically, and they would not allow me to make a statement. And they went on to arresting Dad. And
So hang on. So you tried to go in and make a statement saying this did not happen,
Did not happen.
and the
Yep,
police
this
ignored
did
you.
not happen.
And they wouldn't take her word.
Would not take my word. And then in court, what was said was that I was uncontactable and I was being hard to work with. So that's where I really saw the police negligence for very clearly. And you grow up thinking naively that the police are the people you go to support
Protect us.
victims. But in this case, I mean, we're not seen that way. We're seen as the perpetrator. So Dad went on to being arrested, and it was ruled in the court from there moving forward. In hindsight, it was 12 months. We didn't know exactly at that time, but bail conditions were placed on Dad where we weren't allowed to be around each other for my safety. So 9 of that 12 months, I was pregnant with my son. We had birthdays, 30th birthdays, 50th birthdays, Christmas, Easter.
We weren't allowed
had all
to
of
see
these
each other.
things, and we had to do everything separately to adhere to those bail conditions. And that was so heartbreaking, especially since we've had to remain so tight all the way through this court case to really get through this altogether. Yeah.
It's extraordinary stuff. On a happier note, Anthony, tell me what it was like when you found out you would be on My Kitchen Rules.
Oh, I was excited as, I wanted to. It was more for my wife because she is the most amazing cook in the world, and for me to have it all my life and for her to share it with everyone else, that was my goal, to get her out there and show the world what she's got.
I mean, we grew up with Mum packing extra lunch for our friends at school,
Yeah.
putting orders. Oh, can you pack this brownie? Oh, have you got a meatball sandwich today?
The kids would swap lunches at school.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, because we weren't allowed to process things. Everything had to be handmade and made from scratch. So, and they sought out Mum and Dad at the markets. Mum and Dad never applied for the show. They were.
Yeah, they found us at the market. Yeah, tried Claudine's food, and they were amazed and said, "Would you come on the show?"
And how did things change with Channel 7 after you were charged? Did they change?
Channel 7 ordered us with the suppression order, but once the suppression order had finished,
And
then
there was that
was
12-month contract.
12-month contract we had that we were theirs, and then it kind of fell away. The support.
It's interesting because of the timing. You were on this hit show. The big allegations come through. You're getting, I've got vision here of Claudine getting bounced by a current affair. Did you feel like rival networks went after you because it would hurt Channel 7, or do you think it was just part of the normal day-to-day? I mean, they were big allegations, in fairness.
Yeah, everyone's been always saying, it's the channel rivalry. It's the war between the channels. So, what you see on TV, what do you actually believe? I don't believe in much these days after what I've just been through with allegations and the police just hounding us to try and find evidence. Like when I got charged, after the allegations, the cops get 6 weeks to investigate. And because they found nothing on us, they slapped the same charges on us. So Claudine had 36, and then because they had no evidence, they couldn't find nothing. They slapped another 36 charges. We were exactly the same, just worded different. So then the cops got 6 weeks to investigate. It's like...
Yeah, and it seemed like every time we appeared in court, dates were changed,
everything.
Things were getting retracted, things were getting added on. So we'd come prepared based on the charges, and we'd have evidence for them. And I mean, I had ex-friends logging into my social media, taking screenshots of conversations I had with friends in 2015 as evidence. How is that right? And how is that moral? And I think it paints a picture to the people doing this to my parents and I.
Well, not only that, like even financially, Rob, had to sell my house to be able to pay for the barristers and the lawyers, because we had to have a lawyer and a barrister each, and it's just killing us financially.
Up in the high
hundreds of thousands,
400,000s. Yeah.
Cost you everything.
Yes, it has. We've had to start from scratch, but you know, I thank all my friends that have been there for us and supported the family, the support.
Your legal team.
My legal team, Steve Kissix and Layla King.
They were amazing.
They're amazing, yeah.
Did your lawyers ever say they were surprised by the behaviour of prosecutors?
Oh,
all of them, even mine, they couldn't believe the child's play of it all. They couldn't believe, they still can't believe it's still in court.
Yeah, they thought it would have got thrown out years ago. They can't believe it's still going.
So why is it? Do you think that police believed there was a case to answer here? What was their motivation, do you think? And I know you can't know, but what do you think it was, Paige?
I can't answer that. I don't know why they're trying to go for us. I have no idea.
Well, you're being painted as a celebrity, and I could imagine that certain police want a notch on their belt or their photo on the wall. Maybe, I don't know. But these are our lives, you know, and it's been
ruined.
They've been ruined. I mean, look at Dad, acquitted of all charges, and nothing, crickets, you know.
But like all my charges, there's no evidence on any of what they've accused me of.
No medical documents, nothing.
There's nothing. There's like even the charges against my wife. There's no evidence on anything. And
it's cost you $400,000.
Why are they pushing that when they've got no evidence? Why would you put it through that?
Well, it destroys lives, and it's really, really sad, guys.
Well, it also causes trauma, depression, anxiety. You know, and my wife's going through all that right now. You know, but we've just all got to stick together and be strong as a family.
It's tough, isn't it? And I'm sure you've been through that as well, Anthony. Like when you're just in this whirlwind, and especially in that 9 News report we saw, the cameras are on you. You're being chased by a media scrum. It's certainly not something you're used to.
Well, I've also been asked not to come back on work sites because someone's recognised me from the cameras on the news.
So that's it. You're guilty.
Yeah. But how can you be guilty without any evidence?
Well, you were found not guilty.
Yeah. But shouldn't you?
But it has an ongoing effect on your life.
Yeah. There's no assumed innocence, it seems, in this country anymore, and it's a real shame. And I think on the flip side, another polarizing truth is that so many true victims of these crimes are not coming out on top when they do go through the justice system, which is so sad, because, you know, we're dealing with false allegations that are just, there is no truth to it, but then there's true victims who bear the scars of these traumas that my sisters are parading in. And it's so shameful, and it's so saddening that there are true lives being affected by these crimes.
And they get away with it, and nothing happens to them.
And people wonder why real victims aren't believed. Anthony and Paige, thank you so much for sharing your story tonight. I really appreciate it, and I genuinely wish you all the best going into the future. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Rob. We'll keep in contact. Thank you.
Go McKnight. McKnight.
Have a sip of your wine for me. I can't drink being pregnant.
Well, I will do. You know me. Yeah, you're always right with McKnight. Thank you, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Rob.